said, is there any hope?
Come on in, come on in. Come on in, come on in. My Lord. How can we tell our children that their future will be bright? My Lord. Come on in, y'all. Come on in. What's the world going to be like? What's it going to be like? Tomorrow. What's it gonna be like? My Lord. Yes, sir. Hey. What's it gonna be like tomorrow? Will we be able to sit together at the welcome table? Will we have peace of mind? And will this nation be good and kind? And will we ever learn to live together, black and woman, the boy and girl? Come on now. Next door to each other and learn how to treat every man like a brother. Yeah, come, tell me, will it ever come?
About tomorrow. Thank you, Jesus.
We're goodbye. Hey, Lord. We need to get together down here. Thank God, I ain't worried about it. I'm 73, I ain't gonna be here long. One of these mornings, it won't be long. You're gonna look for Leonard, and he'll be gone. I'm going up to heaven, gonna sing and shout, and nobody there is gonna put me out. I'm gonna look up David in the heat of the day. I'm gonna grab his harp and begin to play, 'cause I know my role is gonna fit me well, 'cause I tried it on when I was going to hell. I said, hell on it. Thank you, Jesus. I like that song. Think about it. My Lord. Reverend James Cleveland, tomorrow. James Cleveland was easily one of the most, if not the most, distinguished gospel artists of the 20th century. We thank God for you and especially you coming in. Shout outs to Mother Barbara Wilson, mother of our church, Mother Lucille Collins, the widow of our Chairman Emeritus, Deacon Alvin Collins, who still prays mightily for a preacher that needs prayer. Yours truly. Thank God for you and you and you. Thank God for all those who are tuning in for WTLD, WSLT, WKVQ with the gospel from me to you. Thank God for all of our people on ATR, All Things Relevant, and our Black Media Networks. And also for those who are tuning in and catching us through Roku. So we just thank God. We're moving in the name of the Lord. Got a solid subject this evening. We thank God for an opportunity to discourse. I've got so many things to thank God for, but we are working our way up the King's Highway in terms of life. Anna Davis, good evening, Vanessa Taylor. Amen, Henrietta. We thank God. And of course, we are Henrietta, my gal Friday, and all of you who are tuning in. Come on in. The water's fine. We thank God. Our numbers are going up again. I don't know how they configure it, but the last 30 days they said we've had about 3,000 people to look at this. And on our Twitter, our TikTok page, we had one of our TikToks that garnered about a little over 3,000 hits. Now on our Weeping Time Coalition page, of course, we've eclipsed about a little over 2, maybe 2.5 million hits for the Weeping Time. That's a separate page. But I want to thank God for those of you who found interest and those who commented on these pages, and we thank God for Henrietta Hill helping us to navigate these platforms. I've got an extraordinary thing that I want to talk about this evening, and I want to do this because in the early 80s, actually prior to my being called to pastor Litway Missionary Baptist Church, I had encountered some people who encouraged me to become a part of a international think tank called CAUSA. And after some study and after some sharing with the group, they enlisted me to become a lecturer, nationally and internationally. Its purpose was resistance to the spread of communism in the Western Hemisphere during that time. Cuba, many of the Central American nations had gone communist or flirted, and South American nations had either gone communist or flirted with communism, and many of them were under dictators and are rulers for life like Fidel Castro. And so we studied communism, socialism, capitalism, studied the great governments. We studied the things that precipitated World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, and all the way back to the French Revolution, and the death of Mussolini and many others, as well as the rise of Haile Selassie and people who wanted Pan-Africanism like Kwame Nkrumah, and more recently like Muammar Gaddafi. And so we have watched and seen the influences down across the globe in a global sense um, of what goes wrong and how it can go wrong in government. People like Erdogan now over in Turkey and many other places where they've in these nations where they've now become basically brand new dictatorships. Some of them are former portions of the Soviet Union. And so I'm sitting there and I'm listening, I'm listening, I'm looking, I'm looking, I'm listening the other day, and I saw a phenomenon that scares me. Scares me because one of the things that scares me politically, socially, and in the fight for human dignity is the possibility of Donald James Trump, Donald Trump becoming a dictator in charge of these United States. Just telling you now. See, he hinted at it, said, well, he gonna be a dictator for a day on the first day. Listen to what he said. Listen to who would even hint at that? Who would even hint at that? It's you know, it's like O.J. Simpson writing a book, If I Had Done It. Okay, why would you even contemplate that question? Why would that be something, a thought even in the back of your mind to explain if you had done it, how you would have done it? Okay, those are bad signs. But having said all that, I've seen and I suspected it and believed it some years ago. And one of the things that a person who's trained in psychology and that's my field. It's specialized as Christian psychology, but as a behavioralist, what you learn is to watch trends. And because I studied and lectured on communism and such, I learned about propaganda, how they shape the thought patterns.
Yes, sir. The back door.
Okay, you can go to the front door, Sheila.
Okay.
He's out there on the front porch.
You all right though?
I'm good. I got to go. I'm on the air. Sheila's coming. Anyway, as always, I'm doing 12 things. So we just thank God for that. Now, so what I saw, and again, we thank God for each of you tuning in, but what I saw disturbed me. Hey, Sister Washington, how you doing? Amen. Thank God for you. What I saw disturbed me because what I saw was the black community being propagandized, tricked, basically being told what to think, and too many of us thinking it. Had a conversation, a late breakfast, early lunch this afternoon, with people that I regard with the highest esteem, African American people who I think are relatively intelligent. And what bothered me was they had come to the conclusion, one of them, that in the next presidential election, they were not going to vote. And these are people who have voted. These are interested people in the community. And the statement kept being said, I'm not voting for Biden. I don't like Biden. I just don't like him. And I kept saying, what are you talking about? He hadn't done anything for us. Really? That's strange. I said, just slow down. Let's see. He put the first black woman on the Supreme Court. Well, what did that do for me? You don't understand that that's, and she's consistently advocating hard, strong for the causes that for which we want a black person on the Supreme Court to argue. She's argued our causes over and over, emphatically, intelligently, articulately. Well, then the lady said this. Besides that, she married to a white Jewish guy. Wow. So I wouldn't bring up the fact that with his most important choice, Biden chose Kamala Harris, a black woman. I wasn't going to bring that up because she would say, well, she's just half black. Like, of course, Barack Obama was half white. Well, there's some things that are silly. And make sure you understand. They wasn't hating the white half of Barack Obama. Yes, his mother was white, his daddy was black, but they didn't mind the white half. That wasn't what they were angry about. That wasn't what all those people who voted for Trump hated him for. It wasn't the white half, it was the black half. But I suspected something since election night 2016, when everybody across the board, through all the polling and everything else they did, thought that Hillary Clinton would win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Illinois. They were waiting for the precincts that usually come in last every election cycle. In the inner cities of these large, humongous cities, they come in last not because they intend to. They come in last because the count is so large. Like in Georgia, that's why Fulton County comes in last, because it's so populated. DeKalb County, big counties, a lot of counting. Now, here's the thing. When they were waiting for Philadelphia and Pittsburgh votes to come in Pennsylvania, and when they finally came in, Steve Kornacki on on MSNBC and others were just going, oh, what's happening? They're slipping away, it's slipping away. And then all of a sudden, Trump was the president. So what really happened? Let me tell you what happened. The propaganda poured into the black community tricked some of us to vote for Trump, and the rest of us, a bunch of us, to not vote at all for Hillary. And many of us didn't even bother to go vote because propaganda had gotten us. And so on Tell It Like It Is right now, I'm going to share with you some of the propaganda that's being poured in our community to get us, and before it's over, I'm going to explain to you how silly this is, how backwards and how ignorant it is for us to contemplate sitting on the sideline or voting for Donald J. Trump. That makes no sense for black people. Not after he intentionally loaded the Supreme Court so that they could eliminate the Voting Rights Act, eliminate affirmative action. And these things directly affect us and our personal outcomes and the aspirations we have for our children and the self-determination we can have in our communities. They have recodified an idea that was verbalized by Dr. King of a practice. They have now made gerrymandering legal. We fought. We walked in the street. We were hosed. We were bit by dogs. We were locked up, fighting to get them to undo gerrymandering. And in 4 years, the Supreme Court has made gerrymandering again the law of the land. Now, so I wanted to share with you all some of the posts that are on media now. Let me see if I can find one of them. Let me see.
Many of the black elected officials and others commit treason against their own people by using race to deflect attention away from their own failures. Why are blacks failing in school systems and cities run by their own people for the past 50 years? If racism were the issue, then tell me, why are they failing? There's always a racial deflection, but many of them are hypocrites because they don't live by the same rules. Eleanor Holmes Norton, Jesse Jackson Jr., all of them sent their children to private schools in Washington while opposing school choice for poor black people. Many of the black elected officials and others.
Now, what you just heard was an argument that basically said we should not listen to our own black folk. That was an indictment on black leadership across the board. We don't need to be listening to our folk. We don't need to be listening to those who are leaders. You've never heard white folks say, we're not going to listen to our leaders. Many of our leaders have not done everything we wanted them to do. So let's start listening to the black leadership. Because that's what he's saying. Because if you won't listen to the black leadership, then all you got left is white leadership. And they're the ones who made it reasonable to go in a different direction.
President Trump will
Listen
have
to
a
this.
miracle second term.
Listen.
He is the one that God's going to put his hands on.
God says, I'm going to flip this thing, and we haven't seen anything yet, but it's coming.
We're not crazy, they're crazy.
And justice will be served, says your God.
This is far from being over.
And nothing will stop me from my plan at putting my son, Donald Trump, back in that White House.
All of this is culminating in Donald Trump getting his second term of presidency. It has to.
I hear the sound of victory. I hear the sound of victory.
Make America great again.
That's what the Bible says.
That is spiritual warfare.
We'll take it by force.
This is war.
Let me tell you something. You ain't seen the insurrection yet.
Uh-huh. Okay. You don't think you got enough? Screw your head on tight.
Doug and Andre came to TurboTax.
Screw your head on tight, man. Watch this. I got more for you. Okay, that one didn't come through. Let me try it again. Okay, it's not going. That one's not going to cycle land. Let me try this one at 10:15. No, that was about this one.
President Trump is gaining traction with voters of color. So I came to the Bronx to put a face on the numbers, and I was shocked by what I heard. Do you think that President Biden is doing a good job with the economy?
No, he's not doing nothing.
Was he doing a good job? Yes or no?
No. I can see we're all going to be the streets homeless.
There's inflation with everything. Food, gas, insurance prices. I mean, you name it.
Bidenomics is not working. It's just a complete mess.
You can say anything to Biden right now.
None of those statements true. Not one of them. Not one of those statements is true. Of course, they went around, they interviewed a lot of people, and they posted the ones they wanted to post. Make sure you understand, we is in trouble. Latanya said, what is Jim Maiden? I don't know what that means. Try to redo that question for me, if you can, or call me directly. But this is time to show, and they're doing young, middle of the road black folk to try to say this is how blacks are thinking. First of all, when the lady said the economy is doing bad, that's not true. Inflation is down, gas prices are down, employment's down. It's up. Wages are up. The national debt's down. We're actually in the middle of one of the most prosperous economic times we've ever had. But they are telling us as African Americans, because they think we don't keep up with it, we're not watching it, that these things are horrible, when they're absolutely not. Let me go a little further.
Who says that the economy is improving, especially in black and brown communities? What would you say to him?
That's lies.
Do you think that somebody else besides Biden should be president?
Bring back Trump. We have money when Trump was president.
Free my son Trump! Trump 2024, everybody.
I'm gonna vote for Trump. It was much better when he was here financially for everybody.
I'm definitely voting for Donald Trump. He made sure we had money in our pockets. He was for the people. He made sure we had what we needed. And ever since he's out of office, everything's declined.
They're saying it's going to be Biden-Trump, so who will you vote for?
Oh, I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna have to go for Trump.
Who are you voting for?
Trump!
President Trump is gaining traction with voters of color. So I came to the Bronx to put a face on the numbers, and I was shocked by what I heard. Do you think that President Biden is doing a good job with the economy? No, he's not doing nothing. Is he doing a good job? Yes or no?
No. I can see we're all gonna be the streets homeless.
There's inflation with everything: food, gas, insurance.
Listen to that last statement. There's inflation with everything: food, gas, and insurance. None of that's true. Okay, food prices are up a little. Let me give you that. There's no question. Food prices are up. But gas prices are down from where they were under Trump. About $1 or so, believe it or not. That's facts. Anybody remember buying regular gas for $4.39 and hoping they could get it for that? Make sure you understand. And then insurance is so far lower than it ever has been. And on top of that, for those of us who are diabetic, who have to have insulin does not, watch this, insulin does not cost you more than $35 a month, when there were people who had to decide whether to buy their insulin or pay their rent or buy their groceries. That's where we are. But we are being deluded. Now, thank you, Tanya. Now, what is gerrymandering? Gerrymandering is every 10 years, when they do the census, they redraw the lines where people are represented, in the districts, where the Congress people's districts are. They redraw the lines. And gerrymandering is when they draw the line and they shape it one way or another in order to get the people that they want into their district. And they will twist the lines, they will make it, they'll go every which way in order to either move the blacks into the district or move blacks out of the district. Prior to the Voting Rights Act, in the state of Georgia, they would draw those lines in such a way you couldn't have any blacks win a seat in Congress. None. They would make sure they they would have 45% of the blacks here. And if they had to reach out, just grab a couple of blocks over there to keep it at that number, they would make sure that they split the blacks up in such a way that they couldn't get anybody elected for public office. Now, recently the Supreme Court ruled in Alabama that they had to, in all fairness, write up redraw the lines so that they would have a second congressman from second congressman. They only had one in the whole state of Alabama, one congressman, okay, from Alabama in the whole state. And so they made them redraw the lines so they can include, that's what the court ruled. They took it back to the legislature to, under the instructions, redraw the line to make another black district. With the court ruling, with the court order, those legislatures in Alabama redrew the lines so there still wouldn't be but one. Because they don't have to go by the rules. No matter what people say, they feel like they're above the law. That's on January the 6th, when those people kicked in the doors of the Capitol, they didn't feel like they were going to get in any trouble. They didn't feel like they was going to jail. They didn't feel like they was getting arrested. They were the people. They were the government as far as they was concerned. And so they tore open in there. And guess what? Worse than that, to some degree, many of them were halfway right, because they're not getting charged as if there were black citizens who broke open windows and kicked open doors to go into the capital of the United States. There wouldn't be any 5 months on probation and 6 weeks community service for participating in an insurrection with the hope of overthrowing the United States government. But we're in trouble because we're drinking the Kool-Aid. We're getting tricked. So gerrymandering is when they cheat on how they draw the lines, setting up the districts. Recently, they redrew the lines in the local districts in Savannah and Yamacraw, which had been in Bernetta Lanier's district, is now in Dietrich Leggett's district. They redrew the line. So that's not the only place. That's not as far as we're going. Let me give you another one if I can. Let me see.
You know, many white people are very upset with Mr. Trump. Do you want to know why they're so upset with Mr. Trump?
Let me start that.
Mr. Trump is one of these. You know, many white people are very upset with Mr. Trump. Do you want to know why they're so upset with Mr. Trump? Because Mr. Trump is one of these Americans who shoots from the hip or shoots from the lip. In other words, whatever comes into his head, he says it. Politicians are not like that. You can sit a politician down in a studio for 3 hours and ask him 3 questions and you will never get an answer. Trump is not like that. Trump will blurt out the answer. That's why many white people, especially people in power, are very upset with Mr. Trump, because he says what they think, but they will never say it. They're all racist. Trump is no more racist than Bush. Trump is no more racist than Clinton. They're all racist, but they are good lying racists. Trump is a racist who just can't help himself. He just lets it all out. And these white people are embarrassed. Shut your mouth, they're saying. You are embarrassing us, because he reveals the true way and the true heart. See, look, ask me a question. Would I prefer an enemy smiling in my face, sidling up to me and putting his arm around my shoulder, and then surreptitiously stabbing me in my back? Or would I prefer an enemy who looks at me in my face and says...
Listen to me very carefully. That's the greatest set of... That's just a bunch of foolishness. So he's doing this backward argument, basically saying he would prefer Trump. With that backward argument, this is trouble, people. We're going to end up with a dictator. If we're not careful, if we don't vote, and I hear some of you saying, well, I don't like Biden did this, Biden did that, Biden didn't do nothing for me. And it don't really make no difference. No, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. Biden would never have stacked the Supreme Court with judges that would have gotten rid of the Voting Rights Act. Wake up and remember. One thing about my mother taught me and made sure I understood the value of critical thinking. You just can't say any and everything to me. That fellow right there didn't make any sense. So basically what he was saying was, he is preferring Trump. And I'm telling you, all of this is propaganda geared to throw us off of our game. Geared for us to get some of us to get so disillusioned and so discombobulated that we will not vote. That we will either vote for Trump or not vote at all. I'm not finished.
You met Trump before? Yeah, I met Trump when I first got out of jail. He came to Drug Dealer Wednesdays with me and Kid before he was the president. Yeah. See who I'm sitting next to? Donald Trump. Smell the money. You know what you wait. It's only yo.
Okay, and so Trump goes to a place with some drug dealers, and while they're in prison, and they become loyal to him forever. See, they're putting these people, these hipsters, inside our minds, saying, "Well, Trump ain't so bad. He went over there with the drug boys. He was among them. He visited them while they was in prison." Now watch this, and then you're going to forget the fact that he ran full-page ads costing thousands of dollars in the New York newspapers, condemning and ultimately aiding in the prosecution of the Central Park five young teenage boys who were tried and found guilty and served decades in prison for a crime they did not do, and ultimately, after decades, were released, exonerated. Not just released because they served their time in good behavior, exonerated, proven to be not guilty. Did Trump ever say, "I'm sorry"? How can anybody black consider voting for Trump when he opposed the first black president to ever be elected in our nation's history by saying he's not one of us. He wasn't born in America. And even when he was presented with the birth certificate, still denied it. Still denied its legitimacy because he could do that. And his opposition to Barack Obama propelled him into the national spotlight and ultimately into the presidency. I'm not finished.
Black people.
Watch this.
Pull your minds out of the presidential election.
I asked God to take away my habit. God said,
"Black people, pull your minds out of the presidential election." They told us in elementary school that your presidential vote does not count. The electoral college is the one who elects and selects the president. So you focus on your state senators, your U.S. senators, your city councilmen, your mayor, your government, your school district, your county commissioners, your sheriff. But niggas don't entertain that president talk. That's a distraction because you don't pick it.
So technically when we see laws being passed, that's what we should focus on versus who is running the country.
Laws and legislation. Because your president does not represent you. Remember, what is his position? Anybody remember what?
Executive.
He's the commander-in-chief of the military.
Correct.
Not the people. Your state representative is your representation. Your House of Representatives, state senator, House of Representatives, that's your president.
So to not even know who your state representative is, state senator, and you're looking at a presidential, that's almost foolhardy to say, I don't know who's even running my goddamn district state.
Who's your constable?
There you go.
Who's your county commissioner? Who's your alderman?
Yeah.
Who's your secretary of state for the state? Who's your attorney general for the state? Come on now. So to look past all of that to be focused on the presidential election, you lost in politics. Black people, pull your minds out of the presidential election. They told us in
This is the garbage that's being proliferated on the internet. These young blacks are being paid royally to sell their souls, to prostitute their values. They're being told what to say. That's a script. That's a script that he just went through. And think about what he said, though. Think about what he said. Pull your mind out of the president. Just pull your mind out of the presidential race. We don't elect the president. Don't worry about that. He doesn't represent you. Okay. That's done by the Electoral College. You learned that in elementary school. Okay, let me see if I got this right. So all you black people decide that we ain't got nothing to do with the presidency. So then who elects the president if we don't have anything to do with it? Because the president's going to be elected. Get your mind out of that. You don't have nobody tell white folk to not think about who's going to be the president. It is insulting how ignorant they think we are, how backward, and how much they think we're not paying attention. It's sad that they would get our young blacks, and that interview where the lady was going around asking blacks in the Bronx, she probably talked to 15 to 20 people and then got the one that said the right thing and put that in her collage. To make us think that that's the common thread among young blacks. And then somebody goes, yeah, well, I ain't voting for him. I ain't voting for him. I'd rather have Trump. Are you crazy? Have you lost your mind? This man attempted to stay the president having lost the election. He would have precipitated a civil war. This man is accused and have been found in a civil court, and this was the judge's opinion at the end of the civil court, was that Trump was indeed guilty of sexual assault, which is how they call it in New York State. In Georgia, the same offense is simply called rape. So now we're going to put a rapist back in the White House. We're going to put we're going to put somebody who encouraged a mob who had Confederate flags, a mob who erected a set of gallows on the Capitol of the United States steps, a mob who ran through the halls saying, hang the elected sitting Vice President of the United States, hang Mike Pence. A mob who, if they had caught Kamala Harris, who was in that building, they would have killed her. Had they caught Nancy Pelosi, they would have killed her. Anybody saying hang the Vice President, had they caught Alexandria Ocasio, they would have killed her. Don't fool yourself. Do not fool yourself. These people are serious. With all that he had done, with all the things that he had done in office, enriching himself, with all the lies he told, 40,000 lies in a 4-year period, and we're about to get bamboozled again. This is the kind of thing that they did. These kind of statements of what they did, and young people listen to them in 2016 to discourage blacks, particularly young black men, from voting. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna play it again. I'm gonna play it again. I just want you to hear it one more time.
No, it's not for me to black people. Pull your minds out of the presidential election. They told us in elementary school that your presidential vote does not count. The electoral college is the one who elects and selects the president. So you focus on your state senators, your U.S. senators, your city councilmen, your mayor, your government, your school district, your county commissioners, your sheriff. But nigga, don't entertain that president talk. That's a distraction because you don't pick it.
So technically, when we see laws being passed, that's what we should focus on versus who is running the country.
Laws and legislation. Because your president does not represent you. Remember, what is his position? Anybody remember what?
Executive.
He's the commander-in-chief of the military.
Correct.
Not the people. Your state representative is your representation. Your House of Representatives, state senator, House of Representatives, that's your president.
So to not even know who your state representative is, state senator, and you're looking at a presidential, that's almost foolhardy to say, I don't even know who's even running my goddamn district state.
Who's your constable?
There you go.
Who's your county commissioner? Who's your alderman? Yeah. Who's your secretary of state for the state? Who's your attorney general for the state? Come on now. So to look past all of that to be focused on the presidential election, you lost in politics. Black people.
That's the kind of information being spread in the black community. So just don't worry about the president. Don't vote, don't participate, don't care who gets it. And then what you end up with is no Voting Rights Act, no affirmative action, and gerrymandering, among other things. It's crazy. It is utterly crazy. But I've had several young people, and some not so young, tell me that as far as they're concerned, there's no difference between Trump and Biden. You cannot be further from the truth. The Republican Party of these United States have gotten them a person who is strictly a dictator. They've gone ahead and sold out completely to Donald James Trump. I don't know. I'm checking to see.
Black Lives Matter, Rhode Island, is endorsing former President Trump and calling out the Democrats for.
Let me see this.
I'm a Christian. I'm going to stand on what it is to be a Christian. I'm going to stand on what it is to follow Christ. We don't go with the pastors and the teachers who are listening to
this. Is simply the best morning prayer.
I'm trying to get
secular music. We don't do.
Well, I'm trying to get to another one. Give me a minute. I'm trying to get.
Donald Trump is not going to be that bad. Don't run. He's going to make a kill, bring their ass over here and start building them desks and stuff in America, because he's going to make America great again. Let's go, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not going to be that bad. Don't run. He's gonna make a kill, bring their ass over here and start building them desks and stuff in America, because he's gonna make America great again.
First of all, that last one, I don't even know if that's real. Redistricting and gerrymandering. Anna, you asked it. I don't know if I answered that good enough for you. If I didn't, tell me to explain it again. Like I said, having had these conversations, first of all, I need everybody who can register and vote. Do not decide to sit this one out. You may wake up in Russia. You may wake up a part of a new Soviet Union. Think about the fact that the Republicans are now deciding not to defend democracy in the Ukraine. The Republicans' mantra for years, ever since I was a child, was, we're going to defend democracy on every shore, every time, and did. Now they're saying, if Putin takes Ukraine, no problem, ain't no big deal. We ain't got nothing to do with that over there. Really? Really? So if it takes Ukraine, okay, what would keep him from taking Kazakhstan? Ukraine is one of the largest landmass, is the largest landmass nation in Western Europe. Ukraine is big. Look at it on the map. Ukraine is the breadbasket. They farm, they export grain, wheat, corn throughout Africa and Europe. Ukraine. We watched as Putin took Georgia, the nation of Georgia. Not America. There's a nation over there called Georgia. We watched as he just took it. We didn't fight. We didn't resist. And then he annexed a portion of Ukraine, the bottom portion, right on the coast, called Crimea. He just said, okay, this is ours. And not wanting to fight, we didn't resist it. And then he decided, because he took Georgia, we didn't say anything. He took Crimea, we didn't say anything. Then he decided he was going to take the whole nation of Ukraine. And at first we said, well, he's going to get it because they're not going to be able to resist him. Those Ukrainians said, no, not so quick, and fought him down to a toenail. Fought him. We realized that he wasn't going to be able to take it easily, so we said, well, it's going to be a shame, so we're going to help. And we helped in piecemeals. We started giving them enough, just enough to fight a little bit back. Listen to this. Listen to this. Had we given them in the first 3 months what we end up giving them in the first year, the fight would have been all over already. And now we in the second year, and we could have given them in the first 3 months what we gave them in the first year. The fight would have been over. And we're still going to pull more in, but somebody said, well, since they didn't do right with that, no, you missed the point. They would have done what, had we given them what they actually needed to repel them, it would have been over. But the military-industrial enterprise of America needs a good enemy to justify contracts and expenditures. We need an enemy. We need somebody to fight. You got to remember now, think about this. All the time we've been growing up, we've always thought there was 3 superpowers: Russia, China, and the USA. Okay, China, yeah, maybe. It's got 1.4 billion people. And a lot of industry, a lot of capacity. Second largest industrialized, second largest GDP on earth. America's GDP, I think, now is about $23 trillion. Let me see. Let me see if I can get it right quick. No, I keep hitting the wrong thing on my thing. Gross domestic product.
According to International Monetary Fund, that means, for example, that a baker who produces a loaf of bread.
No. United States gross domestic product.
In 2021,
Okay,
the nominal
that's
GDP
right.
for the United States of America was $23,315,080,560,000, according to World Development Indicators.
Okay, that was the last full year that we have available. Now, so we're up $24 trillion. Russia doesn't have $2 trillion. That's like a midget trying to fight Shaq. Listen to this. The gross domestic product of California by itself is larger than the gross domestic product of Russia. The gross domestic product of Texas, the state of Texas, the state of New York are both larger than the gross domestic product. Now those are three individual states. So how can they be such a threat to us? They're not. They're literally not. But if we let them, if we let Putin, and we've been letting him, he's going to put us in a position at some point in time, just like Hitler did, just like Stalin and those did, where we're going to have our children in uniform in harm's way. These are facts. This is the truth. We can't afford to not participate in these elections. We cannot put our head in the sand. We cannot act as if it's not our business. We cannot have the luxury, we can't afford the luxury of being apathetic. Someone asked me today, you've been involved in civil rights and the struggle for human dignity all basically your whole life, since I was like 10, 11 years old. More than 60 years. Are we better off now than we were 50 years ago? Individually and collectively, the African American community is better off. We have better access to money. We're actually living in a better environments in terms of housing, in terms of we have more access to information and education. But are we better off in terms of our portion in this nation, and are we more in jeopardy now to being relegated to a permanent status of second-class citizens? In those sense, we're worse off now than we were. Make sure you understand, 4 years ago, or 3.5 years ago, 75 million of our fellow citizens, probably about 70 to 75% of the white population of the United States voted to re-elect an obvious and open racist, which means they're racist. I want you to catch that. These are people you're walking up on, you're doing business with, next door neighbors. Your kids are going to school with their children. That's the environment we're in. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last. And don't let nobody fool you. Americans will, and are willing. There are many Americans that are willing to start a civil war, and they won't stop at just being in charge. They can put us in slavery again. And I know you're saying, no, they ain't gonna be able to do it, not in the modern time. There are nations where this is happening in America, in the world today. Not yesterday, not last week, right now. There are nations in Europe where new dictators have taken over in the last regimes, during their last elections. In America, in the world today. Not last week, not last year, today. And had they been successful in that coup, Donald Trump wouldn't have been president. He would have been emperor. Don't fool yourself. We do not have the luxury of not being able to vote. And yes, Biden is better than Trump for America. White, black, blue, green, gay, straight, Protestant, Catholic, Jew, Gentile, right, wrong, up and down. Biden is better for America. Is he everything I want? Absolutely not. But I can tell you this, Trump is everything I don't want for my government. Lastly, let me show you something. One of the things that motivate me. Show you one more thing. Let me see if I can get to it. Yeah. Let me show you this as I get ready to close out tonight. See that picture right there? You know who that is? That's me. You know who that little fella is? His name is Cannon Anderson. He is my great-grandchild. Yeah. There you go. Cannon Anderson. He's laying there sleeping on his granddaddy, his great-granddaddy. I am not going to leave this fight up to him. If I live, I'm going to fight to make sure that he doesn't have this to do. I love him. And everyone similarly situated like him. Every child that's hoping to grow up in a land of the free and home of the brave. Every child that I want to have live in a nation where they won't fear being stopped by the police under the strength that they are not going to be treated fairly just based on the color of their skin. That justice will be snatched from them just because the people feel like they can get away with it. And don't think because we've been blessed and we're a little well off and we're self-determined because of our position in society that I don't get the same treatment. Our history is being snuffed out because they don't want the lessons that come with it. They don't want us to remember that Fannie Lou Hamer was beaten by the jailers, and then when they got tired, they went and got some black prisoners and made them beat them to give them the subliminal understanding that we are not together. We are innately inculcated with a fear of being in their faces because we were told in the fields, do not look that white man in the eye, you're going to get us all killed. The psychological impact of that has us not looking out for ourselves and telling those of us who will speak up, be quiet. You're going to cause us more trouble than you're going to help us. Well, I'm going to shout it from the rooftops. I'm going to go tell it on the mountain, over the hill, and everywhere. I'm going to tell you what God loves. I'm going to tell you the truth. And if, perchance, you will open your mind, we'll be a better people. It is almost impossible to take advantage of an informed electorate, people who know what's at stake. That's why I do this show. Tell it like it is. I think we're done for the evening. Thank you for indulging yourselves. Thank you for listening. God bless you and keep you as always, is our prayer. We're going to have our regular Sunday schools on the same platform, on these same stations, tomorrow starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be cold. I don't expect everybody to make it tomorrow, but I'm praying y'all will come on out with me. But Jesus, as cold as it's going to be, Jesus did set us up for this by saying, we're 2 or 3 gathered in my name. And I'm equipped. Thank God, I'm equipped now. Watch this. I'm equipped to preach if it's only 2. Because I preached to 2 just like it's 10,000. Because the story I got to tell is worth telling somebody. So we just want to thank you. Again, Sunday school is 10 o'clock. Regular morning worship service between 11:15 and 11, starting between 11:15 and 11:30. And we just want to thank each and every one of you. You're welcome to come. Our church is Litway Missionary Baptist Church, 2335 Shell Road in Savannah, Georgia. Shout outs to all who participate in the process, and shout out to the Weeping Time Coalition and all of its members. God bless you, and God keep you as always is our prayer. We're out of here.